This episode of the Totally Rad Show is brought to you by Gamefly. Coming up, it's a movie about Comic-Con, so how could it not be good? We check out Comic-Con Episode 4, A Fan's Hope.
Today in movies, we are talking about Comic-Con Episode 4, A Fan's Hope.
Do we have to recuse ourselves from reviewing this?
I don't. You guys are in it, but I'm not.
It is a Morgan Spurlock documentary that follows a variety of people at Comic-Con. It was filmed a couple years ago at Comic-Con. It also features...
When was it last?
2010.
Yeah, it was a couple.
Wow.
It was not last one.
No,
Because
2010.
Yeah. But it features many other familiar faces, some celebrities, including us, as you mentioned at the tease at the top of the thing.
Well, not me, but I appreciate that.
We are actually, well, we go to Comic-Con every year, and every year we hang out with Se Young and James, who were the couple in the documentary, if you watch it or if you've seen it, that the guy is planning to propose. And we even...
we're part of that process.
A little bit helped along. So you can see us there briefly, but we are around that couple, so you know,
And TRS
know
hoodie,
that
very cool.
as we discuss.
And even
I think
more.
it's Anakin, right? That's wearing the TRS hoodie next door.
He's back
Yeah,
there.
there's a lot of
So
TRS
great.
fans and regulars
Yeah,
and people that are in
yeah,
our
yeah.
world that are
Yeah.
all up in there. And I know that in that scene where he's about to propose, in a sea of 80,000 people, I think you and I were the only two people that knew what was about to happen in that room.
Yeah, because I don't think
I wasn't
don't,
there.
I
You weren't
felt
there.
like
I wasn't
Kevin
there. I was
Smith,
on another panel.
Didn't remember that it was
certainly
going to happen
didn't.
either.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. It's interesting because it's a Morgan Spurlock documentary, as I said, but it's also produced by Harry Knowles from Mean and Cool News of Joss Whedon and Stan
Did
Lee.
I say 80,000 people are in that room? That was more. That's
You
more
did.
than.
That's more. That's more.
I was doing.
It feels like that.
I think it's 7,000,
It
right?
feels like that.
Yeah.
But, or 15. Maybe
think
it's
it's
7.
seven.
You might be right.
Or it's 7,000 titles.
Pretty sure
But
it's 80.
It is not the typical Morgan Spurlock documentary who usually his movies are similar to Michael Moore's, where it's him going on an adventure, typically debunking something, and it's his personality
He's
in front
not
of the
even
camera.
in this,
He's
no
not even in the
voiceover,
camera. Yeah, he's
no.
not in it. It's much more traditional. It follows a collector who collects action figures and a couple artists who are hoping to break into the comic book industry, and a gentleman who's going to propose to his girlfriend at Comic-Con, and a couple others.
The proprietor of
Costume
Mile High
design.
Comics,
There
which
you
is
go.
a very
Yep.
famous comic book
Yeah.
store from back when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So it follows this group of people, and we see
2010 Comic-Con.
Yeah, and okay, so Jeff, what did you think? Oh, and it's available now on video on demand, so you can watch it on iTunes or on your cable DVR or whatever it is. There's a variety of ways you can watch it. Jeff,
I can't think of another documentary about anything that I am closer to. And we talk about how you can spy us in the movie, but it's more than that. Every second of this film, every inch, every nook and cranny, I know exactly where that is on the show floor. I know exactly how to get there. I know when that happened in relation to other things. Almost all the people that they talk to, I'm either a fan of or, you know, it's strange to see a feature film about a place and a time that I know so intimately. So this is going to be a very different kind of review than I think any other film would be for me, because I can't separate myself. I'm not objective in any way about it, but I do believe that this is such a wonderfully, such a quality look at this world. And my biggest fear, and granted, it wasn't that big of a fear because I knew this was Joss Whedon funded and there were some really good people involved with it. But my biggest fear was that it was going to be like, hey, look at the nerds, you know? And they were going to pick out extreme examples, and we were going to see, you know, it's going to be why are these wacky people so wacky, and they're in the basement, and yada, 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 all those cliches. And granted, at Comic-Con, some of those cliches are alive and well, and there are, you know, odd people and strange sights and stuff that any lay person that isn't familiar with Comic-Con or geek culture looks at strangely. I mean, any newscast about Comic-Con that you see in San Diego is rife with that.
Yeah.
But this is very much a loving portrait of the people, of the culture, and they do a very smart thing where they make it about people, about experiences, and there's genuine emotion felt. And I know for a fact that some of the things are juxtaposed in ways that contrive to create some of that emotion, and that's just going to be the case with documentaries. But it didn't bother me because the spirit is such a, the heart is in the right place.
Right, yeah.
And I had a wonderful time watching it. I think it's an interesting film, certainly for people who watch our show that are familiar with geek culture. I think it's a love letter to that in many ways. And I think even people who aren't as familiar will get something interesting out of it. And people speak in a way that is not shameful or embarrassed, and it kind of gives a great cross-section of who these people are. Who we are, really.
Yeah. I mean, it is really difficult to remove yourself from it and just talk sort of like, oh yeah, well, it's just like any other documentary that I see about things that I have no idea about. And I'm like,
Shark
that's
Week.
interesting. Yeah, exactly. Oh, interesting. Sharks have weird things. I was going to say some disgusting things. Anyway, so it's awesome, and I think that the thing that they really captivated really captured was. Comic-Con is the hardest thing to describe to someone because no matter what you say, it just doesn't come across. The scale of it doesn't come across. The passion of the people that are there doesn't come across. The cross-section of passions that are colliding and in a very embracing way never come across. And I feel like this is, if you're a person who has never been to Comic-Con and always thought that they would love it, watch this and you will understand why you would love it. 2, if you have any interest in comics, period, in any way, especially if you're interested in the writing of the comics or the art of comics and being in that world, amazing movie to watch. But also, if you have a friend or a family member that is passionate about this, maybe goes to Comic-Con or is excited to go to Comic-Con, it's almost like, homework to know your friend or loved one better. You know what I mean? My parents actually called me 2 days ago because they were like, we're watching this Comic-Con movie and we saw Jeff and Mike. I mean, did you know they were in the... And I was like, oh, yeah. And they were like, it's so great. It's just getting us so excited to go back to Comic-Con.
That's awesome.
And it's one of those things where it really shows the whole pie and doesn't really shy away from some of the downsides of Comic-Con. You have this comic book seller who at a certain point is going, artists, comic book writers and artists are saying we are the second-class citizens at our own convention.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the fact that the guy from Mile High can't use the loading docks because Lucasfilm uses the loading docks for Comic-Con now, and he's been going to Comic-Con for 35, 40 years or whatever. You know what I mean? So it doesn't shy away from even the things that all of us internally have said, like, it's interesting, now it's not as much a comic book convention as a pop culture convention.
Right.
So I thought it was amazing. I mean, I had a blast. It really got me really excited to go back and I also love the fact that it followed a couple artists trying to break in, because we always walk by those like the portfolio look over stuff and you see the guys sitting there with the portfolios and you're like, wow, that's a thing that you can do. And there are people who literally, that's what middle America, zipper up, I'm going to try.
What did you think of, I forgot to mention this at the beginning, so what did you think of the story following the girl and her friends making the costumes? And
maybe my favorite part of the film, and with all respect to James and Sagan, but one of the things that I like the most about the movie, and exactly picking up on what you were saying, Alex, is that when you're at Comic-Con, there's no possible way to see everything.
Oh, God, no.
And not only that, but there's like a dozen different conventions happening all at the same time. And one of the conventions that's happening there, while we are off doing other things and can't possibly see it, is this awesome costume convention that, you see these people going to rehearsal and they're having to, plan everything out and signing up for stuff. And they're doing this whole world that we had no access to simply because you couldn't possibly see everything. In the same way that, there's people getting their portfolios checked and trying to break into the comic book industry. All these things are happening simultaneously, and it's this crazy combination of a trade show that's really there for the industry, inner workings of the industry, while also being this crazy consumer mecca of like purchasing power. All those things are really well represented in the movie. It shows all those cross sections, like the collector who all he cares about is being there when the doors open and get that special thing that you can only get at Comic-Con, and then he's done. He's like, I'm done. I got what I needed.
Yeah.
Like all the parts that make up what Comic-Con is, they do such a wonderful job of showing.
Yeah.
Now, it sounds like you guys are in agreement that it accurately depicts this thing that we go to every year.
Yeah.
Do you think, and you kind of spoke to this, but do you think that this works,
it's counterproductive?
Do you think that this operates better as a yearbook for people that have attended every year? That
And
here's
that's
a fond
one of those
look
things-
back? Or do you think it actually functions as, I'm going to go see a new documentary next week. I just saw the one on Rumspringa, what the Amish people do. I saw the one on whatever, and now I'm going to go see the one on what this, I saw Trekkies, and now I'm going to go see Comic-Con. What is that?
Definitely
Do you think it
not
operates as a
Trekkies.
film that way?
I think there's a certain amount of preaching to the choir. I think there's a certain amount of, as I said, it's kind of a love letter to people who are already initiated. But I think it works for your parents. It worked for granted, our parents have been to Comic-Con, so it's a little bit of the choir also.
Yeah.
But I think that there would be people that are like, what is this craziness that we always read about? What is that? I think it's very informative on that level, another thing that's my favorite part, another favorite part of the movie, is the constant white background just interviews with both recognizable names and average people, kind of just speaking from the heart.
Yeah,
it's great.
Smart.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Definitely watch.
So yeah, it's like I said, it's available on most video on demand formats, whether it be downloading, streaming, or watching.
Can I say one
TV.
last quick thing? How do you feel about the sort of pat endings we get for everybody? There really is a feel-good ending for every thread.
Well, it's not that true. That one guy was like,
yeah, but he's found
back to the drawing board.
Yeah, but he found it. There's
Literally.
He found his motivation, and there's really not a down note. I don't know.
Well, I think but it's a documentary about an awesome time. Good things only happen.
Watching it.
All right, everybody, be sure to stick around. We're going to be answering one of your Twitter questions right after this. But first, Jeff Cannata sponsors.
Tell you about the mythical game Fly, the creature that delivers video games right to your home, the creature that has access to over 7,000 new and classic titles across all handhelds, and the mythical creature that costs you only $15.95 a month.
It's also got console gifts, right? Or console things, right?
What did I say?
Handhelds.
Consoles and handhelds?
And handhelds.
Did I?
And consoles.
Consoles and handhelds? Did I say across all handhelds?
Yep. And consoles.
Sometimes I don't
Also with
say
consoles.
all the words in the right order.
Also now with consoles.
Seriously, any kind of video game system that you can possibly play, you can get a subscription to that video game system for $15.95 a month. So, I don't know.
$15.95 a month. I
don't know
less
the
than
math.
a fourth of a game.
Yeah, there's probably some sort of math equation you can do to calculate the massive amount of savings you can do. But you have a list of games, and they send you the game on your list. You play it for as long as you want. There's no due dates, no late fees, no shipping costs. You send it back to them when you're done. They send you the next one on your list. So if you're only playing one game a month, which I know you can do better than that, you're already saving a massive amount of incalculable money.
It's
incalculable. So try it now. We will hook you up with a 15-day free trial if you go to gamefly.com/TTRS, which stands for The Totally Rad Show, because we love our prepositions. Do it. Attempt to do it. And then also when you're done with that, make us a background and send that
fans at TotallyRadShow.com. See you tomorrow.
Join us tomorrow when the guys get down and dirty with some MMA training.
Today's Twitter question sent in with the hashtag TRSQ comes from Edward Alcantara, at E Alcantara on the Twitter.
Oh, I see that name all the time, and I always think he works for EA.
Oh, funny.
And clearly, I've been reading it wrong.
You mean EA in La Canera, Tara?
He asks if you could have one TV, movie, game, or comic book that ended up shelved or as vaporware actually come to life, what would that be? Alex has the best answer.
Well, it's one of the best, but it's called the best. And to be honest, Dan got a little bit of inside scoop and told us some stuff that made this even more true, but the Star Wars television series, man, I was so excited to see that. I was just...
Wouldn't that have been awesome?
It would just, it's so rich, and some of the best stuff in Star Wars is the stuff that is just so off to the side, you know?
Yeah.
You watch the first 3, or the, 4, 5, 6, Boba Fett, the Mandalorian with that arm, all of that is just side crap. You know what I mean? So rich and could be mined. All these little things could be mined for a TV series. So I was really disappointed.
Daniel?
I still remember the issue of Entertainment Weekly that I read. I believe it was the summer preview with, I think it was 88 or 89, and it talked about, in the future, they are hard at work at a Crusades movie starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, directed by Ridley Scott.
Wow.
Clearly that
Turned into
Kingdom of Heaven, which I think is Ridley Scott's absolute finest
I
work.
thought Arnold Schwarzenegger was fantastic in that.
But the idea of in the late 80s,
You mean as the leopard?
Ridley Scott directs Arnold Schwarzenegger in a Crusades movie.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome. Pretty awesome.
Yeah, this is a tough one. There's probably a lot that I'm not thinking of, but the first thing that came to my mind is, I only want it now because we got the Watchmen movie that we got, and we have that.
Yeah.
A very faithful Watchmen movie, but I would love to have seen what Terry Gilliam would have done with Watchmen.
Oh my God.
You know, he was working on it, actively working on it. It made you acid
I
reflux.
vomited. I was so excited.
Borfin. But yeah, I mean, just wondering what that would have looked like. I probably would have been mad because it probably would have been so different from the comic, but,
It would have been
still curiosity.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Awesome.